It's always a good day when affordable products outperform the more expensive ones. So the question is, when it comes to half-inch drive ratchets, is this $15 Pittsburgh just as good as this $200 Snap-on ratchet? Well, let's find out. In the first test, we'll see which ratchet has the best working arc swing. Then we'll compare the amount of back drag. Then we'll see which ratchet has the highest failure load. At a price of only $11, the least expensive half-inch drive ratchet we'll be testing is made by SATA. It's a 72-tooth ratchet with a teardrop head. It does have a quick release function. They claim it delivers a 5-degree arc swing. We're going to test that. And the SATA is made in China. And the SATA weighs 691 grams. A ratchet with a large head can prevent a ratchet from being put to use. And the SATA has a pretty good front-to-back profile at under 35 millimeters, but the side-to-side profile is a little bit large at almost 43. Manufacturers sell ratchets using marketing information about arc swing and tooth count. They're trying to convince you that their ratchet is the best for working in a tight space. So let's see how the ratchets actually compare working within a 30-degree space. We'll see how many right to left passes it takes for one full 360-degree rotation. Gear slop, tooth count, handle width, and excessive tolerances are all factors. And the SATA is a budget tool for only $11 and it still performed reasonably well. Considering it's a half-inch drive ratchet, 23.9 right to left passes for one complete rotation isn't too bad. At a price of only $15 is this Pittsburgh brand, which is sold at Harbor Freight. Just like the SATA, the Pittsburgh has a 72-tooth ratcheting mechanism. It's supposed to deliver a 5-degree arc swing. Carbon steel construction and chrome plated. And the Harbor Freight is made in China. And the 629 grams for the Pittsburgh. The front to back profile on the Pittsburgh is not designed for tight spaces at over 40 millimeters. The side to side profile is almost the same as the SATA at 42.85. And the Pittsburgh has 72 teeth just like the SATA, but the ratcheting mechanism is extremely loose and sloppy. Paul and the main gear just don't seem to be working as a team, and they're not working efficiently. And 37 right to left swings is pretty bad. At a very affordable price of $17 is this Workpro brand. Just like the previous two ratchets, the Workpro is a 72-tooth ratchet. They also claim a 5-degree arc swing for efficient use in tight spaces. And the Workpro is made in China. And the Workpro weighs 632 grams. And the Workpro offers a little bit better front-to-back profile than the Pittsburgh at 38.34 millimeters. However, it's a very wide ratchet at over 44 millimeters. And the Workpro is working like a pro on this test and making 18 degrees of progress with each right to left pass. And the $17 Workpro just moved into the lead at 20.5 passes, which is pretty impressive for a budget tool. At a price of $17 is this Duratech. $17 for a 90-tooth ratchet seems like a great deal. They claim it has a 4-degree arc swing. The forward reverse switch is supposed to move freely. They claim this ratchet can handle high torque. We're going to test that. And the Duratech is made in China. And it's 637 grams for the Duratech. And the Duratech has a pretty large head at almost 41 millimeters by 41.66. The Duratech might be a 90-tooth ratchet, but there's a lot of slop in the gear set compared to the Workpro. And the Duratech is only making about 16 degrees of progress with each pass. And 22.5 passes is good enough to move into second place behind the Workpro. At a price of only $19 is this Neiko brand. It's a 100-tooth ratchet that's supposed to have a working arc swing of just 3.6 degrees. Fully polished, precision machined, and heat treated. And the Neiko is made in China. The Neiko weighs 645 grams. And the Neiko has a pretty large head at just under 41 millimeters from front to back and side to side. And a 100-tooth ratchet for under $20 seems like a great price if it'll perform as you'd expect for a 100-tooth ratchet. And the Neiko is doing by far the best yet at better than 18 degrees of progress with each pass. And the Neiko moves into the lead over the Duratech at 20 passes. At a price of $22 is this DeWalt brand. It's a 72-tooth ratchet that's supposed to deliver a 5-degree arc swing. Contoured, ergonomically designed handle with anti-slip grooves. Low-profile directional lever. And the DeWalt is made in Taiwan. And the DeWalt's pretty light at 572 grams. And the DeWalt has by far the most compact head yet at 34.52 millimeters by 33.65. And the DeWalt's extra wide handle will definitely get in the way if you're working in a tight space. With only 72 teeth, the DeWalt is at a big disadvantage. And it's 23.5 passes for the DeWalt. At a price of $24 is this Ayers brand. It's a 120-tooth ratchet that's supposed to have an arc swing of just 3 degrees. Ergonomic handle and professional gear structure. And the Ayers is made in Taiwan. 569 grams for the Ayers. For a 120-tooth ratchet, the Ayers is pretty compact at 33.35 millimeters by 38.47. And the Ayers claims to have a 120-tooth gear set, which is pretty good for a budget ratchet. The Ayers is doing by far the best yet at just under 20 degrees of progress with each pass. And the Ayers moves into the lead at 18.2 passes. Very impressive. At a price of $25 is this Klein Tools brand. They claim it's forged from the highest quality alloy steel, 10 inches in length and has a durable chrome-plated finish. There's no information regarding the tooth count. And the Klein Tools is made in Taiwan. And the Klein Tools weighs 627 grams. And the Klein Tools has a pretty large head at 39.44 millimeters by just over 41. And the Klein Tools is performing like a 72-tooth ratchet, and it's making the same progress with each pass as the DeWalt. And just like the DeWalt, the Klein Tools is finished in 23.5 right-to-left swings. At a price of $43 is this Craftsman brand. It's a 120-tooth ratchet that claims a 3-degree working arc swing, superior rust resistance with gunmetal chrome. They claim 3 times better access with a 120-tooth dual pawl mechanism. And the Craftsman is made in Taiwan. And it's 594 grams for the Craftsman. And the Craftsman is more compact than average at just over 37 millimeters by 37. And the Craftsman claims to have a 120-tooth gear set just like the Airs, but the gear set seems pretty sloppy and inefficient. Advertising 120 teeth will probably help sell ratchets, but it's not going to speed up the job at a pretty disappointing 22 passes. At a price of $45 is this Icon brand, which is sold at Harbor Freight. 90-tooth gear-to-gear mechanism produces a tight 4-degree arc swing. Low-profile head design for working in those tight spaces. And the Icon is made in Taiwan. And the Icon weighs 587 grams. The Icon does indeed have a pretty low profile at 33.7, but it's 40.56 millimeters from side to side. And the 90-tooth Icon claims to deliver a 4-degree arc swing and is performing better than most of the other 90-tooth ratchets. And the Icon moves into 4th place behind the Workpro at 21 passes. At a price of $53 is this Williams brand. It has a double pawl design with 72 teeth action to provide a 5-degree ratcheting angle. Shift lever reverses action instantly. And the Williams is made in USA. And the Williams is the heaviest yet at 709 grams. And the Williams is not designed for tight spaces at 40.37 by 43.18 millimeters. And the USA-made Williams ratchet only has 72 teeth and it's at a big disadvantage. However, the gear set does seem pretty tight and dependable. And the Williams perform well for a 72-tooth ratchet at 21.9 passes. Also at a price of $53 is this Wera brand. The ratcheting mechanism has 72 teeth and is supposed to have a return angle of only 5 degrees. Very robust without any restrictions on torque. We're going to test that. And the Wera is made in the Czech Republic. And it's 699 grams for the Wera. And the Wera's head size is ideal for tight spaces at 33.89 by 37.64 millimeters. And the Wera has a pretty large handle and it only has 72 teeth. Unfortunately, the handle is really getting in the way and it's holding back the Wera at 23.9 passes. At a price of $59 is this GearWrench. It has a 120-tooth ratcheting mechanism that's supposed to deliver a 3-degree arc swing, designed for heavy-duty use. Exceptional strength and durability. And the GearWrench is made in Taiwan. And the GearWrench is even heavier than the Williams at 740 grams. The GearWrench is almost as compact as the Wera at 34.24 by 37.02 millimeters. And expectations are pretty high for the GearWrench considering their reputation is really good when it comes to ratchets. And the GearWrench 120 is making almost 20 degrees of progress with each pass. The GearWrench just moved into 2nd place behind the Airs at 19.1 passes. At a price of $119 is this Stahlwille brand. 80-tooth ratchet, around 4.5 degrees arc swing. It's a fine tooth with a steel handle designed for use in confined spaces. And the Stahlwille is made in Germany. And it's 655 grams for the Stahlwille. And the Stahlwille is about average at 35.51 by 41.11 millimeters. And the German-made Stahlwille only has 80 teeth, but the gear set seems refined and efficient as you'd expect from a German-made ratchet. Even though the Stahlwille only has 80 teeth, it still performed well at 20.2 passes. We'll be testing 2 different ratchets made by SK. The first one only cost $36 and it's made in China. The second SK ratchet cost over 4 times as much at $157. Let's take a closer look at the ratchet made in China. It's a 90-tooth ratchet that's supposed to have a 4-degree arc swing, made of heat-treated premium chrome alloy steel to offer necessary hardness. 92 smooth ratchet gears only need a 4-degree arc swing. Pairhead designed for ultimate access in narrow spaces. And the SK China weighs 641 grams. And the Chinese-made SK is pretty compact from front to back at under 33 millimeters, but it's over 42 millimeters wide. And the Chinese-made SK is attempting to outperform the USA SK ratchet. And the Chinese-made SK is making just under 18 degrees of progress with each pass. And 20.2 passes is really pretty good. Just like the Chinese-made SK, the SK that's made in USA is a 90-tooth ratchet. They also claim a 4-degree arc swing. Lower profile head allows for access in tight spaces. Sealed head designed to reduce potential for internal contaminants. Both of these are SK ratchets made in different countries and they look quite a bit different from each other. And the SK USA weighs 742 grams. And the USA-made SK is a little bit less compact than the Chinese SK at 34.96 by 40.76 millimeters. And the USA-made SK is pretty expensive at $157, but is it any better than the $36 SK Ratchet? And the USA-made SK is making around 20 degrees of progress with each pass. And the USA SK just moved into second place behind the Airs at 18.4 passes. At a price of $185 is this Mac Tools brand. It's a 90-tooth ratchet that's supposed to have a 4-degree arc swing. It has a compact pair head design. And the Mac Tools is made in USA. And the Mac Tools is the heaviest yet at 793 grams. And the Mac Tools is a little bit larger than average at 35.71 by 42.91 millimeters. And the Mac Tools is also a 90-tooth ratchet, but it's not making nearly as much progress as the USA SK Ratchet. And the Mac Tools is finished in 22.5 passes. At a price of $202 before shipping and handling and $246 after shipping, handling, and tax is this Snap-on brand. It has the dual 80 technology ratchet design featuring 80 gear teeth with 7 teeth in contact with gears to provide strength and durability. Sealed head keeps lubricants in and contaminants out. Durable nickel chrome plating produces mirror-like finish. And the Snap-on is made in USA. And it's 741 grams for the Snap-on. And the Snap-on is more compact than average at 33.63 by 41.2 millimeters. The Snap-on only has 80 teeth just like the German-made Stahlwille. And the Snap-on is performing just as efficiently as a Stahlwille at 18 degrees of progress with each pass. And 20 passes is pretty good for an 80-tooth ratchet. When it comes to working arc swing, the Airs came in on top at 18.2 passes. The USA-made SK Ratchet finished in second place at 18.4 and the GearWrench third at 19.1. The ratchet with the best front-to-back profile is the made-in-China SK Ratchet at under 33 millimeters. The Airs and the Snap-on were just about as compact at 33.35 and 33.63 respectively. And the ratchet with the most narrow profile is the DeWalt at 33.65 millimeters. The Craftsman and the GearWrench finished in a distant second and third place at around 37 millimeters. Taking into account overall head size, the DeWalt is the most compact at approximately 1,162 square millimeters. GearWrench finished in second place at 1,268 and Wera 1,276 square millimeters. Using a ratchet with a lot of back drag could really make it challenging at times. If there's enough hand space, adding resistance to a socket using finger pressure allows the socket to advance, but that's not always an option. I've got a fishing string attached to this 1-inch socket that's attached to a scale. I'll lift the ratcheting wrench until the gear set advances. And the SATA has quite a bit of back drag at 586 grams. And the Pittsburgh has a very sloppy and loose gear set, and that just didn't help much on this test at 430 grams. And the Workpro is at 990 grams of back drag, which is way too much to work efficiently. The Duratech performed well for a budget ratchet at 442 grams of back drag. And the Neiko just aced the test at only 158 grams of back drag. Very impressive. And the DeWalt performed a little bit better than average at 390 grams. The Airs has a very good working arc swing, but the worst back drag in the lineup so far at 986 grams. And the Klein Tools performed better than average at 330 grams. The 120-tooth Craftsman has a little too much back drag to work efficiently at 454 grams. And the Icon really struggled in this test at 760 grams of back drag. The Williams also struggled in this test at 738 grams of back drag. And the Wera performed about the same as the Craftsman at 464 grams. The GearWrench continues to impress at 300 grams of back drag to move into second place behind the Neiko. And the Stahlwille really needs to loosen up to work efficiently at 718 grams. And the made-in-China SK needs to revisit their design at 958 grams of back drag. The USA-made SK performed better than average at 400 grams. Unfortunately, the Mac Tools has way too much back drag to work efficiently at 840 grams. And the Snap-on also has way too much back drag for a premium ratchet at 678 grams. So the Neiko finished in first place for back drag at only 158 grams. GearWrench finished in second place at 300 grams and Klein Tools 330. If your hands are oily or greasy, it can be a big challenge to switch directions with the directional lever on some ratchets. So let's compare the amount of force it takes to make the switch in directions. And the SATA performed well for a budget ratchet at 486 grams of force to change directions. And the Pittsburgh really struggled on the working arc swing test because of a really sloppy gear set, but it performed well in this test at 444 grams. And the Workpro performed well on the working arc swing test, but it struggled in this test at 638 grams. Changing directions with the Duratech takes a little bit more force than the SATA and the Pittsburgh at 564 grams. And the Neiko performed well on the working arc swing and the back drag test, and it also performed the best yet on this test at 312 grams of force. The DeWalt takes around 442 grams to change directions, which is about the same as the SATA and the Pittsburgh. If your hands are a little bit oily or greasy, it might be a little challenging to change directions with the Airs at 754 grams. Trying to change directions with the Klein Tools is pretty easy at just under 400 grams of force. And the Craftsman's directional lever is about average at 492 grams. At 346 grams of force, the Icon moves into second place behind the Neiko. It's really an apples to oranges comparison, but it takes about 1,256 grams of force to rotate the ratchet dial on the Williams. And the Wera performed almost as well as the Icon at 362 grams to change directions. When it comes to changing directions, the GearWrench is the most user-friendly yet at only 264 grams of force. And the Stahlwille performed a little bit better than average at 410 grams of force. The Made in China SK ratchet takes quite a bit of force to change directions at 820 grams. The Made in USA SK outperformed the Made in China SK at 448 grams. If you're wearing rubber gloves or your hands are greasy, the Mac Tools is difficult to work with at 1,372 grams to change directions. 876 grams for the snap-on is quite a bit of force, but the directional switch has a pretty tall profile and easy to access. The directional switch can be a challenge at times, and the GearWrench requires the least amount of force at only 264 grams. Neiko performed well at 312 grams and the Icon 346. Since I don't have a traditional tester that can handle over 1,000 foot-pounds of torque, I'll be using this test setup. Once the ratchet is attached to the holder, I'll add a safety rope to prevent the ratchet from going too far when it breaks. The hydraulic press will apply a downward force until each of the ratchets break, and the very affordable SATA is 10 inches in length from the drive to the end of the handle. We'll calculate the actual foot-pounds of torque after we destroy all the ratchets. And the SATA's handle is beginning to flex under the intense load, reaching a peak force of 820 pounds. And the SATA finally had enough and the parts went everywhere. And the half-inch drive is a source of failure, but let's take a look inside the ratchet. A close look under the microscope, and the teeth on the main gear experienced minor damage. And the Pittsburgh is only 8 3/4 inches in length, so it should put up a bigger number than the SATA. Unfortunately, the Pittsburgh sloppy gear set let go at 676 pounds or 150 pounds less than the SATA. Let's go ahead and try this again. And the Pittsburgh gear set let go at 265 pounds this time. The pawl in the main gear design used by the Pittsburgh is well designed for low back drag. However, it's a very sloppy gearbox which hurts the working arc swing and durability. The main gear has a lot of damage, and the pawl experienced a lot of damage as well. And the Workpro is the same length as the Pittsburgh, but the gear set does seem a little more refined. And the Workpro stopped working like a pro at 765 pounds. The gear set on the inside of the Workpro does look a little bit different than the SATA and the Pittsburgh. The previous ratchets had 72 teeth and the Duratech has 90. And the Duratech has outlasted all the previous brands so far, but things suddenly went from happy to snappy at 822 pounds. Let's go ahead and try this again. And the Duratech gave up at 235 pounds this time. The teeth on the main gear have completely stripped, and one of the pawls experienced a lot of damage. And the Neiko has performed extremely well throughout the showdown and outperformed the $202 snap-on in some of the testing, but can handle high torque. And the Neiko is holding its own and briefly made it to just over 900 pounds of force. And the Neiko is finished, and the drive is a source of failure. A look inside the gear set, and the main gear is still in great shape. Both the pawls are also in great shape. Not bad for a $19 ratchet. From the end of the handle to the center of the drive, about 8 3/4 inches for the DeWalt. And the DeWalt has a very compact head size, but is doing a great job withstanding a lot of torque. And the DeWalt reached a peak force of 857 pounds before finally breaking. The drive is a source of failure, but a look inside and the main gear also experienced a lot of damage. The pawl is still in great shape. So the question is, can the 120-tooth Ayers ratchet keep up with the ratchets with less teeth? And the handle on the Ayers is really beginning to bend, and it's at over 970 pounds of force, the most yet. And the ratchet is finally finished. The internal gear set is the point of failure. The main gear and the pawl experienced by far the most damage yet of all the ratchets. And the Klein Tools ratchet is 9 inches from the end of the ratchet to the center of the drive. And the handle is beginning to flex quite a bit. The Klein Tools is finally finished at 787 pounds, and the drive is a point of failure. Even though the drive did fail first, the main gear was damaged pretty badly. However, both pawls held up just fine. And the Craftsman is a little more compact than average, and it's advertised as a 120-tooth ratchet. The Craftsman reached a peak force of 780 pounds before it finally let go. And the Craftsman appears to have a 60-tooth main gear and 2 alternating pawls to account for the advertised 120-tooth gear set. The main gear is badly damaged, and the pawls also experienced a lot of damage. And the Icon has a comfort grip handle, and I had to stop the test since the handle was bending excessively under load. I removed the handle, and there's only 8 inches of length from the center of the drive to the pressure point on the handle. And the Icon moves into the lead at over 1,100 pounds. The main drive is a point of failure. The main gear is built to withstand a lot of abuse and is still working just fine. A closer look, and the main gear and the pawl are still in very good working condition. And the Williams definitely looks to be a very heavy-duty ratchet designed to handle a lot of torque. And the handle is beginning to flex under load, but it's holding up. And fragments of the main drive went everywhere. And the main gear is still in very good condition, and so is the pawl. This is definitely a very durable ratchet. And the Wera claims no restrictions on torque. So expectations are pretty high for the Wera. And the handle is bending quite a bit under load, and the Wera reached a peak force of 797 pounds before gradually losing ground. And the drive on the Wera is badly damaged and just about broke away from the main gear. And the main gear and the pawl held up just fine with no visible damage. And the GearWrench has 120 teeth and it's one of the most compact ratchets in the lineup. Fortunately, the compact size is not hurting the GearWrench. And the main drive on the GearWrench finally let go at 943 pounds. That works out to over 800 foot-pounds of torque, the most yet. Very impressive. And the gear set is still working properly. A close look at the main gear and the pawls, and there's no visible damage. Definitely a very durable ratchet. And the Stahlwille is the first of the ratchets with a price tag of well over $100. And the Stahlwille's handle is beginning to bend under quite a bit of load. And the ratchet reached a peak force of 819 pounds and the gearbox is jammed. So let's try this again. And the Stahlwille finally gave up at just over 800 pounds. And the drive is the point of failure. The pawl is also broke and the main gear also experienced quite a bit of damage. And the Made in China SK weighs 100 grams less than the USA SK. And the SK finally broke with a peak force of over 900 pounds and the main drive is a point of failure. A look inside and the main gear is in good shape but the pawl is broken. And the Made in USA SK is very robust at 742 grams. And the handle is barely bending under a load of over 1,000 pounds. And the USA made SK finally broke at 1,042 pounds of force. The main drive is a point of failure. Surprisingly, the main gear and the pawls are still in very good condition, definitely a durable ratchet. And the Mac Tools is the heaviest ratchet in the lineup and this thing is a tank. At a price tag of $185, it should have some very high quality components. And the Mac Tools finally broke at 927 pounds. And the drive snapped just like the SK. A look inside the ratchet and it's still in very good working condition. The pawls and the main gear still look as good as new. And the snap-on is also a very heavy ratchet at over 741 grams. And the dual pawl 80 technology used by Snap-on is a pretty bulletproof design from my experience. And the Snap-on reached a peak force of 931 pounds. And there goes $246. And the main drive is the point of failure and the main gear still looks pretty good. One of the pawls did experience some damage. Some of the handles are longer than others. Taking into consideration handle length and converting force to foot-pounds, the GearWrench came out on top at approximately 805 foot-pounds. The Made in USA SK broke at 782 pounds and Mac Tools 773. Assessing build construction and quality is highly subjective, but there is clearly a difference. 6 of the brands receive the best possible rating of 1 and should last a very long time if not abused. So which ratchet is best? I've converted raw performance data into a 1st through 18th ranking for each category. The ratchets are organized by average finish. And the $59 GearWrench dominated the showdown with the best average finish at 1.7. It performed well in every single category, which is pretty rare for a ratchet. At a price of almost $100 more than the GearWrench, the SK finished in a distant second place with an average finish at 4.7. It performed well for working arc swing, back drag, and failure load, and in my opinion, it has a very good build quality. However, the head size of the ratchet is pretty large, and the directional switch takes a little bit more force than some of the other brands. If it's all about value, the Neiko is a terrific deal at around $20, and it performed extremely well with an average finish of 5.9. It has a very good working arc swing and back drag and has a very easy to work with directional switch. The head size of the ratchet is pretty large and it broke at 680 foot-pounds, which is still pretty impressive. If not abused, it should last for many years and would definitely be my choice if it's all about the budget. It's always a good day when we find products like the Neiko as well as the GearWrench that perform extremely well and outperform some of the more expensive brands. All the videos in this channel, including this one, are viewer suggested. So if you have a video idea, I hope you'll take time to leave a comment. Thanks so much for watching. Please take care and look forward to next time.